We're back again, discussing our Holy Week. One of the most touching scenes during Holy Week is the washing of the feet. Now, I know it's supposed to be on Thursday, but Metropolitan Kurban of Tripoli, Lebanon, of blessed memory, wrote a script for the washing of the feet to do Wednesday night after the service of the oil. And we used to do that with all the altar boys. And even some laity, to demonstrate what Saint Basil said, that Saint Basil the Great, that I must wash the feet of my brethren for true humility. And Thursday morning is the liturgy of the Last Supper. And at first, when I went to Montreal, the people used to run into the church and the priest would give them communion without liturgy, just like throw them communion. I called that liturgy the pharmaceutical Eucharist, which I stopped immediately, even to the howl of people that wanted, because the Egyptians in the congregation would go very early in the morning for communion. I said, there can't be communion without liturgy. You have to do that liturgy. And in a way, the attendance was not as great, because I would not give in to a 6 or 7 o'clock throw communion in your mouth and keep on going to work. That's not the way it works. We had to do the whole liturgy. All of Holy Week is a reenactment of the Passion of Christ. And you know, there was a big debate, by the way, whether Jesus used leaven or unleavened bread. And he used leavened bread, which we've been doing in our church for 2,000 years. Receive me today, O Son of God, as a partaker of thy divine mysteries, or what St. Peter has written, a partaker of divine nature. And Thursday night, the reading of the 12 Passion Gospels. Some people think, oh my God, it's so long, that service, it's deadly. Well, yeah, if you just go and sit there and don't understand what's going on, it's going to appear deadly. But if you enter into the rhythm of the night, and you listen to the gospel narratives as they describe the final hours of Christ. And after after the fifth gospel, we carry the cross around the church. O thou who covered the earth over the waters, O thou, the King of creation, O thou bride of the church, we fall down and worship, in thy glorious resurrection we glorify. The church is darkened, and we walk in that wonderful procession of the Holy Cross. People weep, people kneel, people that enter into the rhythm of the service don't find that it's way too long. When you let the prayers in the gospel speak to you and speak to your heart, they're not long. Yeah, they're long. They were born out of the monastic communities. But that's what makes us Orthodox. Our service is not, are not utilitarian. Go in for half an hour, 45 minutes, and bounce off. On Friday, you have the reading of the royal hours. And then we have the taking down of the body from the cross during the Vesper service at 3 o'clock. And here too, by the way, in Montreal, this became a very important service because the families would all come with their children. And we would walk around the church with the children and let them come forward and kneel in front of the tomb. Again, it's memory building. It's all memory building. In that afternoon service, which started with a few and now was packed at 3 o'clock on Friday. Because we emphasize the role of the children to participate in the passion of Christ. And we show them the winding sheet or the epitaphium that we carry around the church and then place it in the tomb. And explain in a brief message to the children the meaning of the winding sheet with the body of Christ as Mary holds him. And Friday night, the Lamentations. The church is all decorated in flowers. We all stand before the tomb and we chant the Lamentations. And those Lamentations are a cry of the Mother of God, appealing to why her Son had to suffer. Listen to the words of the lamentation and hear the cry of a mother. Oh, my son. Oh, my son. And tomb is decorated with flowers to show the prefiguration of the kingdom of heaven, where all is beauty. And during the third lamentation, when we sing to the myrrh-bearing woman, the church is blessed with myrrh mixed with holy water. We bless the tomb, the church, and all the people. In the hymn of Moses is chanted, the prefiguration of the death of Christ. To show the juxtaposition of Christ and Moses. All these hymns are so meaningful and deep. I forgot to mention on Tuesday the hymn of the sinful woman. One of the great hymns of our church that is sung in 8 different tones. All these hymns are for the elevation of our souls to God. And after the great doxology, the choir sings, "The Holy God, Holy Mighty, Holy Immortal One," is a proclamation of the might of God. As we carry the tomb around the church, holding lighted candles. And the next day, on Saturday morning, the Saturday of Light, when we sing the hymn of the three children, the Song of Daniel. And after the Holy God, we cry out, "Arise, O God," as we throw the bay leaves throughout the church to indicate. And by the way, we make a noise with the pews, banging on the pews when we do this, to show that Christ has crashed Hades, and that the resurrection has already taken place by the descent of Jesus into Hades to deliver those who have gone before, to release Adam and Eve. And that great cherubic hymn that's sung during that liturgy, in such solemn tones. And then comes the vigil, Easter night. The priest comes with a candle. "Come ye, receive the light from the light, which is never overtaken by night. Come, let us glorify the Christ, risen from the dead." And everyone lights their candles from the paschal candle that the priest is carrying. And we all go outside. You stand outside like the church is an empty tomb. And after the reading of the gospel, when the woman found the empty tomb, we bang on the door saying, "Who is the King of Glory?" To indicate that Christ has overcome death by death. We we swing open the doors as everyone goes into the church singing Christ is risen. The church that was once all darkened is now lighted up. The bells are ringing, the choirs are singing. And the church fills up again. What a glorious night is Easter. What a glorious night is that proclamation. There's a story during the communist period. When the churches were closed, there was a man, a great lecturer, came to a town in Russia to give a lecture on the value of communism and materialism and the glory of man. And when did they do it? Easter night. And everybody was forced to go listen to that lecture. And the hall was filled. And he went on and on and on showing the philosophy of atheistic materialism and communism and blah, blah, blah. At the end, he said, anyone have any questions? And an old man raised his hand and says, I do. And the speaker said, okay, come forward so we all can hear your question. And the old man came down to the front and he turned around and he said, Christ is risen. Christos voskresce. And the throng of the people jumped up and exclaimed, Christ is risen. Indeed, he is risen. And the speaker just shrunk away because he could not, in the darkest time in Russia, forget this essence of orthodoxy, the risen Christ, the faith of our fathers, of the saints and of the martyrs. And on Sunday, the gospel is read in all language, the Gospel of Thomas. It's called the Agape service. And in both services, we pass out the eggs as we try to crack them. It's an ancient practice. We take the egg and we crack it, Christ is risen. And all the kids are there at that service. And again, we do another procession. And what is the great hymn on Easter night? Besides the sermon of St. John Chrysostom that calls us even in the last hour to come. That begins with the glory. Today is a day of resurrection. This is the day. Let us rejoice and be glad therein. And because of the feast, let us forgive all those who hate us, so that we can exclaim, Christ is risen. To forgive all those who hate us. That line always pierces my soul. If our Christianity, if our Easter faith means anything to us, it means we be faithful in forgiveness of any broken relationship. Because the risen Lord calls us in the end to sup at his table as his children. And all brokenness, all sin is melted away before the risen Christ. This is why we embrace one another during the liturgy, during this chanting of that hymn, exchange greetings and hug one another. Because without reconciliation, the kingdom can only be an illusion. We are confronted during Holy Week and on Easter night to heal our brokenness and to find Christ in our life. The risen Christ in the womb and tomb of our souls. Christ is risen. Christos aneste. Christos voskreset. May the glorious feast of the resurrection, and may the light of the resurrection ever shine in your heart, in your lives, and in your families. God bless you.